is there any other way to make determination with respect to?
I can scroll through all of the callers that are on the line, but what happens is in the middle of that, people are logging on, and it takes me back to the top of the list. So I'll take a roll call. Peter, I know that you were here. Jeff, are you on the line?
Yes.
Ellen?
Here.
Treasurer Davis?
Here.
Secretary Beatty? Justin Hayes?
Here.
Justin Dayhoff?
Roll call, so.
Capethia Campbell?
Here.
Dave Ursulani?
You dropped. Damn. Thank
I'm
you.
sorry, if you're all speaking up, I can't hear the responses of the participants of the meeting. Dave Ursulani? Joanna Pratt? Jessica McLean? I have 6 board members present.
Maria, does that give us quorum? Maria, can you hear me?
Peter, you do have 6 out of your 11 board members.
All right. So I call the meeting to order. First order of business is as a follow-up from our last meeting in closed session. I'm here to.
I didn't get that. Could you try again?
I'm here to inform everyone that the board met in closed session on December 8th, beginning at 9:20 a.m. Those in attendance include Jeff Newman, Ellen Hurd, Treasurer Davis, Secretary Beatty, Justin Hayes, Dave Ercolini, Jessica McLean, Laura Atlas and Justin Hayes, along with Tony Savia, Megan Merrick, Maria Dodge, as well as representatives from the Nelson, including Brad Rustin, Brad Moody, and Gina Greenwood. For purposes of clarification, the board,
Peter, I believe everyone is not hearing you now.
That's correct. I can't hear anything.
Maria, can you hear me now? Maria, can you hear me now?
Yes, Peter, we can hear you now.
For some reason, this thing keeps muting me, like, on its own. Were you able to hear my pronouncement with respect to the last meeting, the closed session? Did that come through?
No.
We heard your attendance, Peter. If you could just recap what was said at the meeting, I think that is the part that probably was not heard.
During the closed session, the board heard an overview from council on the progress made towards resolving the earnings calculation issue for the prepaid trust. The board took no votes during the meeting. The closed session adjourned at 10 a.m. Was that heard?
No.
Yes, Peter, I heard it.
Okay, great. At this particular juncture, I entertain a motion from the board to go into closed session to receive an update from council with respect to legal advice. Megan, is that sufficient?
Yes,
Before
Mr.
you go into closed
Mr.
session, can we ask a question about the delay in the interest earnings? What are your options in terms of
I'm sorry, we cannot. This is a special meeting, and we are actually not permitted to do that because it is a special meeting, and that wasn't on this particular.
Well, you gave us 3 hours notice. There are about 300 people taking days out of their time here, and we just like to have some simple answers. It seems to us.
I move the motion to go into closed session.
Yeah,
Second.
go for it. What,
I second it. Capacia Campbell, I second.
What is the
All
purpose of
in
this
favor,
meeting?
please say aye.
Aye.
Why did you even
All
ask us
opposed?
in here? Why did you even request us to come?
Unfortunately, we didn't request you to come. This is a required notice that we're supposed to provide. I'm very sorry to all of you. Unfortunately, we're stuck under the same rules that you are in this case, is that if we have an emergency meeting just for ourselves to get further advice, we're required to give notice. And that's, my apologies, but that's the way the rules are. And not, I mean, we would have been fine
go to
not
the
giving the notice.
legislature and ask for money because this is corrupt.
We need to know when this issue is going to be resolved.
We will have answers for you afterwards on the website. That I promise. That's why we're having this meeting.
On the closed meeting.
All right, hey guys, all right. All right.
Closed meeting is for their
It's time to get attorneys.
All right, guys, we're going into. All right,
class
board
action.
members, please drop off and go into the closed meeting.
Class action lawsuit.
Class action lawsuit. Complete bullshit.
Their closed meeting right now, they're talking with their attorneys in their closed meeting to see what their options are. That's what they're doing.
Are they paying for any of the tuition at all?
Hi everyone. Good afternoon. This is Delegate Janelle Wilkins. I had just joined, and also very frustrated about what just happened. But I got on just a couple minutes ago. Were there any updates that were provided at the beginning?
Absolutely not.
No.
No updates whatsoever.
No.
They voted to go into closed session.
That was it.
That was it.
So are they paying any of the bills at all?
They are only paying the principal that you put in. So they're not calculating any interest into the payment. So, like for me and my daughter, they're paying like $4,000 or $5,000 less per semester than I think contractually they're required to. So I've been trying to get an update. I sent in the assist form. They said they lost it. I need to resubmit it. Then they said they're going to calculate the interest payments manually for me. I have another payment due January 3rd, and I got nothing in months. So this is ridiculous. He should have at least said, here's the update, here's when we think the calculations will be done, and here are the options. To blow us off like that is really a negligence of duty. I mean, I don't know how they can get away with this.
What happened to the interest money?
They didn't even have all the board members join, for God's sake, so they don't really care. It is time to get attorneys and find out why the governor and the inspector general is letting this go on. I can't even get my principal, let alone interest.
Well, we have Ms. Wilkins on the line from the House of Delegates. Ms. Wilkins, what can you do to help us?
Hi everyone. Good afternoon. I've been following this issue due to several constituents. Well, first of all, I represent District 20, which is the Silver Spring Tacoma Park area, just for background in the Maryland State House. I've had several constituents that have reached out about this, and so we've been following the issue, and it remains unresolved, and I'm also concerned about the transparency aspects. So Senator Feldman and I have been brainstorming legislative ideas around how we can have some accountability with this body, how this can get resolved. It is a challenge because it's in the middle of being resolved, so it's hard to legislate on something that's still sort of in process and attorney and legal things are happening.
Well, it's been in process for about a year now, though. I mean, so why just now are we getting on this?
I just found out about this maybe in the early fall.
This has been going on for about a year.
I understand that, but ever since my office was made aware and constituents communicated with me about it, that's when I started to get involved, and we have communicated and not gotten great responses from the executive director and the board. So that's why we're introducing legislation. So I want to be able to communicate. It looks like the Facebook group is where everyone is communicating and where this group is organizing. Is that correct? So no, it's not.
I wasn't even aware of anything. I've been dealing with these people on my own since last October.
So someone mentioned the Facebook. Okay, so someone put it in the chat. I think we should all make sure we are part of that so that we can communicate. It's called Free Our Interest Now, Maryland 529. It's in the chat. Lindsay Page put it in the chat. I'll copy and paste it.
Because it's great to share information, but something's got to happen. The Inspector General doesn't seem to care. No one seems to care that we can't even get our money.
Do we even know if the balances are accurate?
Are they even there?
They refuse to tell you the balance.
Do we have a Ponzi scheme going here? I mean, why are they so
The problem is that over years they've lost employees who knew how the program worked. Then they switched it to the Florida administrator in November, and they changed a bunch of rules on their own unilaterally in October, and then they switched it, and then all the calculations were wrong, and that's when, this was a year ago, not this past.
Last December was the last time.
In this volatile market, who knows if the amounts of interest are even accurate anymore?
Well, if you're in the prepaid plan,
yes,
you didn't have to worry about that because
No. With the prepaid, you can't even get your money out of the prepaid plan.
Well,
You
you
can't
can't
get
get
out.
out right now.
plan, they gave you less than the principal that you
No,
put in.
that's the
definitely
thing.
an issue with
Exactly
the
right.
Tell you what the interest is, only the principal. My
Yes.
daughter goes
less
to
than the principal.
school, and we can't access the funding at all. We also had asked Senator Feldman's office to try to get a letter for us to give to my daughter's university, and they told Senator Feldman's office, the 529 plan, that they will not send a letter.
Right.
So the financial aid office at university, they don't want it public. They don't want the media to know about it. They don't want anyone to know about it.
No.
Call them up.
Delegate
What I would
Wilkins,
suggest
at
though
this
to
point,
anybody is don't touch the
Delegate
principal.
Wilkins, at this point, what are we doing here?
Are we
working on getting our money? Because it is creating a hardship for everybody on this call. We
Yeah, I
have
need
kids that are
$50,000
going to
by
college.
December 31st.
We have kids that are going to college. We've been on the phone all summer long, throughout the fall, and nobody's given us an answer. They just keep pushing the deadline further and further back. I mean, another gentleman had just spoken that, his tuition for his child is due on the 6th of January.
Yep.
My daughter's is due on the 3rd in January, and nobody can give us a straight answer as to what we can do here. They're telling us to roll it over to a T-Row price account so we can withdraw more. There's all kinds of things that are happening right now, but we can never get a straight answer or what are our options.
Delegate.
Yes.
Quick question. We have many people here, and I thank you for actually giving us an opportunity to voice. Can we schedule a public meeting?
529 did not want this to
Please
happen.
hold.
You got all these people in one
Please
spot.
hold. Can we schedule a public meeting with more than 3 hours of notice, invite the media so we can air our grievances and try to get a solution? Because we've all been doing this individually. Let's get something together with enough notice, invite all the news outlets so we're not doing this piecemeal. And I'd like you, since you have an interest, delegate, if your office can do this.
They could be more compassionate with their messaging. They could,
Look, the passion is gone. We've got to now take it to them. They put us literally on mute, went to quiet, they followed the letter of the law, but now we've got to unite our voices so our children can get college. We've been victimized by a Ponzi scheme, to quote a gentleman, Mr. Olick, and I mean no disrespect, sir. Delegate, can you set something up for us? Let people have a notice of a public hearing where we actually can be heard.
Right. I could go on Excel and tell me what the interest should be. I mean,
agreed, but we're arguing in isolation. Delegate, can you set something up? Set something up in front of the Maryland legislature so we all can come in and say, look, here's our grievances, here's our complaints, here's what we had before it went to someone else.
Yeah.
Give us more than 3 hours notice, have an agenda, have people
the worst thing they wanted was these 300 people to be in the same room together.
Well, and they forgot to cut this.
Delegate, can you do that? Let's get a righteous indignation focused.
Yeah. So
Everyone let the delegate speak, please.
Yeah.
So a couple of things. I think that some kind of public forum.
Right.
Some may have heard that
It's
529 they did a public forum a couple of months ago where they just listened. But I think that I think it will be really important for the legislature to hold one, especially during session. And so I request that the legislature hold some kind of public forum like this, because hearing the stories and the impact and what we need to do is very important. So that's one thing. The second aspect is that I think that there are a couple of buckets that we need to work on. I think there are obvious transparency issues with Maryland 529. There's also a piece around accountability and us not being able to, get answers. I'm also not getting the answers that I need. And then there's, of course, your immediate impact, the bottom line that you all are facing in terms of the payments that you all are voicing that need to take place. Those are the three areas that I'm seeing. So you all let me know if I'm missing anything.
Hello. What happened to the legislative guarantee?
That's what I was going to raise.
Well, there's also
legislative guarantee.
There's a thing in the fine print where it's talking about if there's an excess amount of cash flow or whatever, then there'll be a distribution, and that never happened. And I was talking to my financial guy. Like, this is criminal. I mean, there's more money here than they need, but they're not distributing it, and then all of a sudden they locked it down. And
so for people like me who still contributes to this through automatic draft from my bank account, is it advised that I continue to have this money pulled from my account towards this account?
I wouldn't. I'd get out of it fast.
Immediately. Getting out of Maryland. Obviously, they can't be trusted.
And what happened to Governor Hogan on this? Oh my God.
And we're trying to plan strategically to go to the media as opposed to going to the media.
Can I make a suggestion to you all, please, for a second? Can I just make a suggestion to all of you?
Please go ahead.
My name is Douglas Sitt. When Johns Hopkins University and Blue Cross Blue Shield were in an impasse after 9 or 12 months on payment of accepting of Blue Cross Blue Shield, I got involved. I contacted the head of Blue Cross Blue Shield and the head of Johns Hopkins. I was able to engage both of them. I sent them letters. I had communications. And 2 weeks later, Governor Hogan that was involved also. I contacted him and the issue got resolved. All of this discussion is great, but there are so many people involved, so many questions, so many issues, and time is of the essence. I think we need to have 2 or 3 people designated as key contacts, get all the names of everybody at this meeting. You can demand that. I have called Governor Hogan's office. I'm waiting for a response. We need to get him at the table now, not go through legislation. This is critical. misdemeanors are being done. If everything is hidden and concealed, we are at a tremendous disadvantage. We need an organization quietly to set this up immediately this week to get this thing underway promptly. And I'm only suggesting work. I have a lot of experience with government agencies.
So that's a great suggestion, wonderful suggestion. And if I could add to what you just said, I'm DOJ following this, not only because I'm in this situation that you all are, but for other reasons that I can't go into right now. But one thing that I can on.
You're having feedback. I cannot hear you. So everyone we can't understand.
I'm also on the new governor's transition team. And so I think it's a great idea what was just suggested, but what I can also do and offer to the group is to also speak to the people on the education and policy team that's part of the new governor, to see what can be done on that end if someone takes a
we're having a hard time understanding this feedback. We can have both governors.
So, Miss Valerie, if I hear you correctly, you are saying you are a part of Mr. Moore's transition team, the new governor, and you can help us raise this issue?
Yes, I can take this to the education policy team.
Go ahead. Go for it.
Douglas,
More
please
the
tell us
merrier.
your last
Would you
name.
please do that for us? That will be a great help.
Absolutely, but I think what was brought up before is very important that we go to the Facebook page, everybody joins it, and that can be our vehicle of communication, as well as to get information from everybody. We need everybody's information. We may even need to find up a picture if necessary. But I think there are enough people that are in this boat that if we come together as a community, it will definitely make an impact.
What is
the
the Facebook page, please? And Douglas, what is your last name and your contact information? Can we get that?
My name is Douglas Zinn, Z as in zebra, I-N-N. I'll give you my email address is zinnTwin, Z-I-N-N, twin@gmail.com, and I could help them work with it. I don't mind doing that. I'm a retiree. I have a lot of government experience, federal, state, local government, and I will do if I can help to reach out to Governor Hogan, I will charge you my contact to get a hold of him, and if you want to help participate in this. This whole thing has just been, it's a mess.
It is a mess.
Obviously, we have that. So if a couple people can join a group of us, like 3 or 4 people, and we can then represent the community at large, residents, students, and such, then we can go to the governor and I'll drive down to Annapolis. I don't mind talking. We need upfront clarity. Enough with all this stuff and all these rules and regs. Bottom line is, school is starting, our students need to have their tuitions paid, and then all these issues that each person has should be identified. We can look at them and summarize them and present what it is that is occurring in our knowledge and find out we demand to have answers immediately. And we're not talking about weeks and months, we're talking about now, because they have a legal fiscal responsibility to all of us.
Mr. Zinn, can you please put your email address in the chat? People are asking for you to put your email address in the chat.
I don't even know. I'm not even on. I'm talking to you by phone. I'm not even on the website.
No, I'm on the phone. That's okay. Can you repeat your email address and I will type it out? That's fine.
ZinnTwin, Z as in zebra, I-N-N, ZinnTwin@gmail.com.
Okay.
Yes, people now have done that. That is great. Thank you.
Can I ask a question? Has anybody had a similar issue with the rollover calculations?
Yes.
Okay, that's my problem. I lost $10,000 when they changed the rollover recalculation.
That's the Ponzi part.
Yep, I think everybody pretty much is in the same boat.
Well, but the interest rate thing is different. That's the interest that they're paying you if you're in the prepaid. The rollover
I'm in the prepaid, and there's no interest. They say we can just get the principal. So it's bad.
You said it's
I am a former investigative reporter. Hello. And I'm a parent who's also affected by this. I've been in touch with the Washington Post, and they're very interested.
Sure they are. They've written
So if
about
anybody
this.
if anyone's willing to share their stories, can you email me and I will pass it on to the Post.
And what is your email, Lisa?
Okay, my name is Lisa Getter, Getter. My email is gettpeterson, Peterson @yahoo.com. Like I said, I'm a former investigative reporter. I did this for 17 years. I can lay out this story pretty well, I think. I've never seen anything like this in all the years I was a reporter.
Why has it not been in the news? I've been calling Senator Feldman's office every day since August. I don't know why it's not in the news.
Because I don't think that people have reached the right person and told the story the right way, and I am willing to do that for this group. Like I said, I'm affected by this as well. So if I want, I will help.
Yeah.
Is there any room in here?
You wonder why certain legislators are not on the call. You have to remember that this board is overseen by the legislature. So that may be the reasons why we don't see certain folks on this call.
I wouldn't talk about any conspiracy theories at this point. I think
it's not a conspiracy. It's straight out. It's, the legislative board is this Kasemeyer. Edward Kasemeyer is named after a former legislator. And the legislature is the one that gives the authority of the Maryland 529B plan to act. Now, I'm not saying that the folks that are not here are crooked or they didn't show up, but I'm saying we just have to realize that it doesn't look good for the governor, nor does it look good for the legislative branch to find that their plan that they're supposed to oversee is not working well. I do believe that the names that came up, I believe Representative Hilliard was here. I do believe she's got a very good interest in trying to make this work, and I applaud her for showing up on the call today. I think that when working through her office and going after the media, as Ms. Peterson had mentioned earlier, in a cohesive method, we might be able to make some traction here. If we can facilitate it perhaps through her office with Ms. Peterson or Senator Feldman's office, I think we can make some ground.
Thank you, Valerie.
Does anyone in this group know what this group is? I got an email today, a Zoom invitation, and that's the first I knew about the meeting.
So I filed a complaint with the Maryland Open Meetings Act complaint. And the reason why they sent out this email was because the Maryland 529 board was found in violation of the Maryland Open Meetings Act. And one of the things that they need to start doing now is if they call emergency meetings, they need to send out emails to all stakeholders. That was something that came out in the Open Meeting Act report that came out that they were cited with. And what they weren't doing is they were calling meetings in less than 24 hours. They were posting it on their webpage, and that's a violation. They were also not posting minutes from their meetings for 6 months on end. That was a violation. And so those types of things have happened. So that's why this meeting was called. As they had mentioned, it wasn't supposed to be a closed meeting. It was they're having an emergency meeting to talk with their lawyers about us. Should they be talking about us? Yeah, probably so. But it would be good for them to be transparent in those communications. That's the reason why I filed the complaint in the first place, was so that we could get more information out. The fact that it brought all of us together, I kind of see as a good thing.
Yeah, it is. And under what circumstances can they have a closed meeting? Do you know?
So the Open Meeting Act is actually pretty extensive about what you're allowed to close a meeting for and what you're not allowed to close it for. To consult with your own attorneys, which is what it says in their meeting agenda, is one of the things you can close a meeting for. Okay, so that part is okay.
But that is a legal loophole. You can bring a lawyer in the room, therefore consulting with your attorney.
Find the problem. I'm new to
Can somebody please define what the cause and what the problem statement is here? Be helpful for me.
What we've been told month after month is there's a mess up in applying interest, and they've had this committee working for
the prepaid.
Yeah, so I can tell you, I'm in the prepaid, and the problem is I can't get any of my money. It's a pretty simple.
What does that mean? What does that mean for in-state, or if you're trying to move the money out of state? I'm just trying to get a little clarity here.
What does it mean? What it means is I
what does it mean?
all the forms that you're supposed to file. I have called 3 times, and I've escalated 3 times, and that is to get the money out of the prepaid fund to send it to a different university out of state. So I have to submit bills, copies of all my bills attached to all the forms, which have all been submitted, and they have not sent any money or answered any of the escalations.
Okay, so what about if it's in-state? I understand out of state now, so what about if it's in-state, University of Maryland, for example?
Same thing.
However, let me.
They know the address for University of Maryland because they sent 2 checks out for me, and they said they didn't have the proper address for the University of Maryland.
Okay, because I was able to create last fall's tuition, but
I thought the state had given them $1 million to help clean this up. Was I wrong? I heard on Fox 45 that the state had allocated $1 million for them to.
I heard that too.
That was. That is correct. They were given money to do that. And that's actually one of the groups that is in that closed session right now and they're reporting to the board. I'm going back to look at the meeting announcement because they talk about the name of the firm in the announcement. So that's it. Nelson Mullins was the firm that they are paying. Yeah.
They're the only ones who got any money.
So my son dropped out of the program back in March, and we were quoted like $32,000, and we got 13. And I've been waiting all this time to get the rest of the money. I mean, this is ridiculous. And I've got another son still in it, and I paid them $60,000 back in 2000 for 3 sons. It's just.
And I don't believe they owe you any interest on your money either. I had a similar situation, and my money had been missing for several months. After trying to redo the plan, I had closed 2 years, and then I was going to reopen it as an UTMA. The core purpose, or the core thing that happened here, is that the plan lost my money. No one could tell me where the money went. And 7 months later, when they decided to return it to me, I asked about the interest for that money, and they said there's no interest due me. And I have that as a concern. That's with the prepaid college trust. Now, if we look at the other program, the investment program, some of you all might recall that there was a governor's match that was intended for last year. And I called the plan a number of times before investing. I said, let me try this out, since I've been very upset with the prepaid college trust that I have been involved with since 2007. So I decided to invest in the CIP plan, only to find out at the last minute, 7 months after I invested, that there would be no governor's match. There was no pre-notification that would allow us to take our money out. And as you know, that CIP plan is based on the market. The market has started tanking. And as the market tanked, we lost money. Had we had that governor's match, we would have been in a better position financially. And I think that the key problem here is transparency. I've talked to Anthony Savia a couple of times. We've probably had over 3 hours of conversation since September, and it's ended up in him just trying to hide things, like Mr. Savoy said earlier. There's no transparency. They're not doing things in the open. And they're meeting with their lawyers for sure. And they're meeting not in a way to our best benefit, but how they can get over on us. That's the purpose of the meeting.
For the lawyers.
Exactly.
What do we have to do with the lawyer involved?
How do we go forward? Who do we?
Does anybody have a contact with a class action attorney?
I we could do, guys? I think that someone had mentioned it earlier. I think going through the representatives, I believe her name is Delegate Hilliard, who was on the line earlier. And forgive me because I just came out of another meeting. And then there was also
Delegate Feldman. Senator Feldman.
Yes. Blow up the phone line. They've been very interested in this, from what I understand. I understand Ms. Hilliard has been very much in the case. And I think the more we can hold them accountable, and if something does not happen, let's give a fair, reasonable amount of time. I mean, I've already done this for a year and almost, it was September of last year when I got involved with this and haven't seen any results. So I think that, maybe giving them until the first week or so of January, just to let them know that we're still on it. There will be, the new legislative session will be convening, as we enter the new year. And then we can talk about the press being involved. Perhaps Ms. Peterson can help us out. I also have some press contacts. My name is Daryl Claggett, and I would be more than happy to facilitate this. But I think we should put the pressure.
I believe you should start now.
Yes.
Because they have
We
gone on
can raise
for
our
months.
hands that want to be included.
I agree. Can we start by calling and writing our both Ms. Hilliard and Mr. Feldman now or today? I just sent the notice to him and told him this meeting is going on.
Hi, this is Delegate Wilkins. I can make one amendment to that, Mr. Darrell.
Thank you, Ms. Wilkins. That's exactly who I was mentioning. And forgive me for misnaming you earlier.
No problem. I want to suggest there's 225 people on this line. I want to suggest people contact their own House members and Senate members, because the more members we have, I'm involved in this because of Brian. Brian contacted me. He's my constituent, and that's why I've been acting on it and following up on it. And other Karen and others who have followed more of my constituents. So we want to make sure that your elected officials, your state House members and senator are aware that you're impacted by this and what is going on. You go to, I'll put it in the chat, you go to if you don't know who your House member and Senate member are, you go to mdelect.net. I'm putting in the chat now, and that's where you can put in your address and see who your House members and senator are. We want to make sure that my colleagues are aware of this and hearing from their constituents so that they can be, aware and interested and invested in making sure we're working together to resolve this issue. And make sure we need a way to communicate, so be sure to join the Facebook group. All 222 people that are still on here. We need a way to communicate moving forward, and right now that's via Facebook.
Yes, I was hoping that, can I just make a recommendation? I was hoping that there would be some type of way. I don't know how many people are still left on the phone. I'm on the phone. I am not, online, so I can't see the chat or anything. But there was a gentleman who gave his email address, bentwin@gmail.com. Is there a way that we can at least everybody send our email address and contact information? However, we can all stay together.
Yes.
We have to take advantage of where we are now, and that is, I don't know how many people are on the phone now, but
there's over 200 on right now.
If we could all send our email address and our contact information, and maybe that's not the way to do it. Maybe there's some type of social media platform to do it, and I don't want to tax Mr. Zentwin with it. But if we could just get all of those email addresses and contact information, whatever people want to share, I don't want to lose the power of numbers. Right. So these folks have essentially kicked us to the curb. They don't think that we have the ability to be cohesive. I can articulate, I'm ready to go to the press. I'm ready to go straight to the news myself. I have tens of thousands of dollars in this. And if I knew I could be backed, or if anyone who wants to take something forward knew they could be backed, there's power in numbers. And, 2 or 3 people is one thing. 250 people who have been screwed over is another thing.
Can I press now and call Congressman now? Because we have been waiting for years. Nothing's been done because it's been in isolation. Hit them now right before the Christmas holidays. What better thing do you see? We've been good parents trying to prepare for our kids, scripting and saving, and now we get a lump of coal in our collective financial stockings because of untransparent communications. Hit them now. put the pressure on them now. We go through everything now.
Okay.
Because there was supposed to be a legislative guarantee in that contract.
Agreed, but the legislation doesn't follow through because they don't feel the political pressure. We hit them now, we hit them in the press, we hit more people than the 220. We get that out. We then reschedule through the delegate a meeting in the first of the year to get this done. We spread the news out far and wide. We get the class action suit whilst we're going to the Washington Post, while we're going to the media, while we're contacting everyone. We put the pressure out of the big blanket now.
I think that there's something that we could do. I don't know who it's a news station, and the lady's name is A Matter for Mallory, and she handles this kind of thing. And I think that if we could get it to her, and then she could put something up to say anyone who has been adversely impacted by the Maryland prepaid in terms of the Maryland 529 plan, contact this number, some kind of way to get publicly to show that we have a problem. It's a local news station.
Ladies and gentlemen, good evening. My name is Aiden Wilkie. I'm an attorney. However, just to be clear, I practice down here in North Carolina. I'm a criminal defense attorney, so I don't do class action cases. So I'm on here only as a parent. I got 2 daughters in college. I've wasted, untold hours dealing with these jokers at the 529. And if anything, they're pretty slick as far as the different things that they do and say to continually give you non-answers and to lead you on. My point would be, I do litigate for a living, and so I think that a couple of things have been said here. But what I would say is that the person who said that the numbers matter is absolutely correct. I think the way to handle this is to have a 3-pronged approach. I think you put the pressure on your elected officials. I think that you get this matter in the media and get media interest. And I think additionally, we need to shop around and try to find a class action sort of attorney that would, or law firm in Maryland that would be willing to take this case on. And that we have, a number of people, if as many as want to, join in that action. And you get all those things bringing to bear on this problem. Eventually, they potentially will want to solve it, if for no other reason, because they'll just want the pain to stop and for it to go away. So I would encourage people to focus all their efforts, energies, and frustrations in those kind of 3 areas, because I think that's the best way to try to bring to bear people doing what they're supposed to be doing. And individually, you're absolutely right. Each is an oars, they can handle us just fine. But if we're in mass and we're organized and we're bringing to bear on them these things that I'm describing, eventually something's going to have to happen because, at a certain crescendo level, elected officials don't want this. If there's a legal remedy and a lawyer tells us there is one, then that could be a lawsuit. I mean, that's just my take.
And how do you?
Can people hear me? Can everyone hear me? Can I add? I'm new to this.
How do you just organize?
Can I ask?
I was hoping that we could use the
Can I just interrupt for a second? I'm Doug Finn again. I just placed a call to Justin Hayes, Chief Legislative Officer for the Comptroller of Maryland. I told him it's an absolute emergency situation that's occurring right now. That's for him's office and him to contact me directly. So direct line to Governor Hogan. So I'm trying to work on it now for you all. Let me see what I can do to get a direct line to the governor. I believe I'm listening to what you all are saying. I agree, but the thing about the lawsuit and everything, that's going to take tons of time. Right now, we need to get somebody to intervene to get our children's tuition paid immediately. And so I just want to let you know, I can't stay on long. I'm trying to do this. I will hopefully get a call. I'm hoping that I'll get a call this evening from Mr. Hayes or the governor's representative. Okay? So
Mr. Ben, can we send our emails to you and then you keep a list for us?
I'll try. I'll do
probably see my name under the chat under me. I just added an email. If you scroll up a little bit, it's Maryland529.22@gmail.com. If you all want to send your emails to that email address, I can make sure we're all on one chat. And I can definitely get this in front of the attorneys in the front, see what we can do about moving forward on the class act.
Can you repeat that?
There's an email a little further up on the chat. It's Maryland529.2022@gmail.com. If you guys want to send an email to that address, we'll put together a listing so that we can all keep up on everything together. And I can make sure that we reach out to Governor as well.
Is Maryland spelled out or is it ND?
It's Maryland. It had to be written out. Gmail required 6 characters.
Okay, wait a minute. Maryland 529
.2022
2022 what? Is that
at
it?
gmail.com.
Okay, why don't you all, that sounds like a good idea.
Form letter. Put it on the Facebook page so people who are new to this and don't completely understand what's going on. My daughter is good for 2 years. She's not going to college for 2 more years. But people who understand it and have been dealing with it, can you write a brief form letter and put it on the Facebook page so people can take that and send it to their legislators?
And what is the Facebook page address?
The Facebook page, the Facebook page address is.
Posted it on the Facebook page.
Yes.
You can see the address on the Facebook page right now.
Maryland529.2022@gmail.com.
And
form letter there with the issues, then people could go there and then contact their legislators based on that form letter. Might have to modify it a little bit, but it would be a help for people who are just hearing about this and don't really know all of the issues.
I'm happy.
Name of the Facebook page.
The Facebook page is called Free Our Interest Now, Maryland 529. And Maryland 529 is spelled out. Maryland 529 is one word. Maryland spelled out. Free Our Interest Now, comma, Maryland 529. And several people, including myself, have posted the URL in Facebook in the chat. I found it. I just Googled Maryland 529 and it popped up, and I assume that is the quote Facebook page that everyone is referencing. That's the only one that popped up in my search.
And if anyone is looking at going to the press on this, just remember it's beyond local. We gotta tap in. This is a statewide issue, so we've got to tap into all the media markets.
Oh, absolutely. And the gentleman from North Carolina has money invested here, so it's not even limited just to people in Maryland right now.
Exactly.
And it affects.
Can I ask a factual? Can I ask a factual question? Because I've been able to take my money out on the 529 prepaid, but they said the interest is going to be calculated later. So, do other people have that same situation?
Yes.
I was told that if you take your money out now, that's all you get. I
That
was told if you take it out now, you can only withdraw the principal and the interest, and it's frozen for another 12 months, so you can't withdraw it for next fall.
that's correct. Because that the reason for that is because of the federal tax rules for 529 accounts. You can only do one rollover per year. So if you execute a rollover now, the clock starts ticking before you can execute another rollover.
Right. So that's why we didn't move it over yet.
Yeah, the other problem with rolling it over is there's a fee. So that's the problem. You'll lose some money to that fee.
That's not entirely correct.
Put it in another account, not take it out. If you're getting a distribution.
The distribution fine, but say you wanted to move the rest of it, the Maryland investment plan, you will pay a fee for rolling it over.
So you pay
But
you
you're
pay
still
the
able to take distributions, you just don't get whatever the proper interest is, correct?
right.
Correct. And it's only getting the minimum.
Yeah.
Only getting the $5,000, the $300. You have a statement from
Exactly.
2021, and that's the most recent one that they can tell
college now, so I can't wait for class action or any of those other things. Like it's now.
My bill was due on the 15th.
You'll get it eventually. So you have to wait, but at least you'll get it.
So are they paying any of the tuition at all? Can somebody answer that question? Are they paying any of the tuition at all?
So for me, they are. So what they did for me is they took the total amount that I paid in, the total principal value, divided by 8 semesters, and that's what they're paying each semester. The calculation does not include the 4% interest you're supposed to get. So they will pay the principal, but the interest is supposed to be added later. And what they said was, if your student has finished school by the time they do the interest, you'll then have to apply for having excess benefits, whatever that means, and then you'll have to deal with that.
So let me go how far back this goes, because this is my second 529. I've been in the 6 years now. This is 2 years for my daughter and 4 years for my son previously. How long has this been going on? Do we know?
It's been going on for 13 months.
Okay, got it. Thank you.
I think a lot of this happened once intuition came on board last year, and that's been a whole blank of a bunch of trouble with that. And it appears that the new executive director, Anthony Savia, I can understand he really hasn't got his full footing in on things, only being there for about 3 months now, but it appears that he's standing more so on their side than what he is on our side. And definitely it's been a problem since intuition. Before intuition, this plan has been excellent. I've had great experience. I've been with this plan since 2007, prior to intuition. I could even walk into the Baltimore office.
Well, I'm not sure if that's an exact accurate, because again, I'm on just like the previous caller, 6 years, 1 child through college already, second one in college. When I reinvestigated after this problem was brought up, I went back and looked at my son's stuff, and it's like he just said, it's the number of years divided by, or number of semesters divided by the total amount I put in, and basically I got what I put in. And it seems like the same thing with the daughter, and that was from 16 to 19, and now that another college going through, and again I'm getting that minimum, semester number of semesters divided by how much I put in, and wherever. So I'm like, okay, what is my benefit of even putting this money in here? I could have saved it myself if I wasn't getting benefit from it.
Yeah, and invested it and earned money
out of state, so I understand, I'm not getting paid that whole Maryland tuition, but it's like, okay, you're giving me exactly what I gave you, and I was starting with 2008, it's done by 13, you don't have my money.
I have a quick question.
Completely sitting there for years, and I get no benefit from it.
I have a quick question. I've been on the phone with the Washington Post and the Attorney General's office and Jamie Raskin's office. Does anyone who's been on the call as long as I have know the name of the person who yelled at someone early in the call?
Yeah, that was that's Peter. That's Peter Singeritis.
It was Peter what?
It's the chair. It was the chair, the board chair. I can put.
What is his name? Peter Zimmer?
No, I'll put his name in the chat. Okay, just give me a quick second.
I appreciate it. Everybody wants to know the name of who yelled at us.
Yep.
That was a sad statement.
Contacted Van Hollen and Carter's office as well. Yeah, but you have to contact your state. I get it, but I'm just saying from a constituency, it's good for top down.
Well, Raskin's office was very helpful, giving me some names to call.
Yeah, call your local. It's a Maryland issue. Sure, but it's a good way to get people higher up involved too. So I have a question. I'm just confused. I want to know: are people who are going to in-state having as much problems with people who are having students outside of Maryland to withdraw and transfer the funds? Are people who are going to Maryland from University of Maryland not able to get money paid to University of Maryland because it's Maryland paying Maryland? Is that also something to get next?
If I may, the issues in-state or out-of-state. It's the same issue. We can't get our interest.
So you get your principal. Yeah.
Yeah, just check your account balance. I've got 18 years in, and it's just showing what I paid in.
Yeah, for point of
My
reference.
account balance online shows a FAFSA amount that it includes all the interest, FAFSA benefits.
For a point of reference, look at your last statement from last January that had your last FAFSA amount. I'm going to make up a number here real quick. I put in $60,000 20 years ago. My FAFSA amount is $175,000. I can access $5,000 right now.
Exactly.
But they've changed that FAFSA.
You can roll over some of that FAFSA amount.
So that's the bottom line, guys.
Maybe we need to contact FAFSA.
The
Somebody with a dog, please mute that.
The
FAFSA
FAFSA
amount just shows what
value
your accrued
is
interest
the
is.
interest value
Yes.
from last January. Look at your last January statement. Your FAFSA value on that statement is your accrued interest.
How much
Then
that
why
is
is there even any question? If we know what the interest is, why don't they just give it to us?
They don't.
They say it's calculated incorrectly.
They think it's calculated correctly.
If your child is not going to a Maryland school, there's no interest showing on your bill, because if you go to Maryland, they're paying for 1 year of school if you have enough money in 1 year.
You should still have interest if you have a prepaid plan.
Yeah. There's no interest. They cannot tell you how much the interest is.
If you're in a prepaid plan and you paid in full and your child goes out of state, there's supposed to be the adjusted value for more schools in Maryland, and that should go for tuition. The other part that they don't do is if you have an overage, as the woman pointed out, she paid $60,000 20 years ago, this is $175,000. I have the same thing. Therefore, I should be able to take out the extra money for tuition and apply that to books, room, and board. But Maryland will not pay that because there's now saying interest is in flux. And I'm like, well then give me what is due. We're keep figuring that out. Going back to what Carolyn, thank you for taking that time. We got to go to the lawyer said, 9 simple for the 3-pronged approach. First, we got to get the information out so then we can get more people to inundate them with the stories. Then when it goes out, we're going to have enough lawyers clamoring down because this is money. Where did the money go? Where are the books? This is the pinnacle is out
But
ahead.
you're going to have lawyers taking that money out too.
Agreed.
I don't know if a class action is the way to go at all.
I said that 20 minutes ago.
I think somebody needs to do a financial analysis of what the problem is and how to be corrected. I feel like I think it's very unclear what exactly the problem is.
I don't know how Governor Holding got out and not addressed this.
Yeah.
The problem is that
aren't open.
the books aren't open, right? And they've not had open and transparent financial statements and reporting on what's going on. And then the pandemic, what happened is they did not put the funds in an account that would preserve the interest of all of the investors. That's what the problem is. And now they're scrambling.
Carol, you're a great person, and I appreciate you on the phone. Please keep it up. Brian, you were on the forefront for that. The Simplified Double Dog out in North Carolina, the lawyer, you were great. Elliot, you were great. Now, my question is, we have righteous anger. Let's channel this. What is our plan of action? We're going to go to the 529 page. We got the delegate. She's going to do it and call our representatives. We've got people canvassing this. I think this is a good step action. We're going to go on the forums, on the Facebook pages. Is there anything else we can do to be actionable on this before right now we're in Hanukkah, Kwanzaa, Christmas season, and I don't mean to disrespect anybody or I'll say holiday season. Let's get this now before it gets gets dropped off. You gotta try to drive there in time.
I think we have a critical mass here, so I do think that we're in good shape as far as moving forward. I don't think I heard on your list, Mark, that folks here, several folks here have mentioned going to the media, and it seems as though some folks already have reached out.
Carol,
So that's another thing.
Carol reached out. Lisa was an investigative reporter for the Post, I believe. If I disrespect or misremember, I mean no disrespect.
No, not at all. I just didn't hear you say that. Thank you.
And all of these things have been going, and I think, and we got other forums that people have written. I think this is going to get picked up probably before Sunday. And another way, we could call various radio shows, bring this up, say, hey, yesterday, as Carol said, there was a meeting, there was a mess up on an open email that got over 365 people that were involved. They cut it, and then we were left on the ball, and we started to community organize by denotation, not by connotation, and we'd like to bring this up so other people can learn about it. And then we just start listing our grievances, rightfully so grievances, and we were not given the opportunity to be heard. They literally cut out the meeting and jumped to another meeting. So how the God's good earth, Brian, please correct me if I'm wrong, is this keeping an open forum? This is like, we're telling you of a closed meeting. Thank you.
No, you're absolutely right. Their communication could not have been worse about this. I think one of the issues that they've had continually, okay, I mean, if you look back a year from now, all of their problems have actually been how you communicate with plan participants. Okay, so this is just a kind of a continuation. It's just for them, not for us, but for them, a really bad continuation. There are also, I'd say there are probably about a half dozen reporters who are already engaged in this story. Some of them are already on that Facebook group, but I also have email addresses for many of them. So I'm going to send them an email, all the ones who've done reports on this from...
Carol King. Could I please speak with an investigative...
to all of them, letting them know what happened today. So they can pick it up. We've got people in the Baltimore media market. We've got people in the DC media market. We don't have anybody on the Eastern Shore. So if there's anybody on here from the Eastern Shore, I've been looking for people from the Eastern Shore who have been going through this because we really need help from your legislators as well. Also, people who are up in the Allegheny Mountain area, we need help from them as well, because I think that's the thing is, the strategy that the lawyer talked about earlier, that three-pronged strategy is absolutely what we need. And as Delegate Wilkins said, we need legislators from all over Maryland in order to help us get some legislative action. Fortunately for us, they're going back into session in like a couple of weeks. So we should be able to utilize that as well as the media in order to do that.
Brian, this is Bill Corey. I live in Worcester County, and I am also friends with Brooke Learman, who's going to be the comptroller. So perhaps I can help on both of those fronts.
Thank you so much.
Brian, can I give you my email if I was unsuccessful getting on Facebook?
Yep, please do.
EBOLDAK3737.
All right. So you said can you type it into the chat, perhaps?
What do I type? I'm a septuagenarian.
All right. Okay. Can you just tell me what it is again?
EBOLDAK3737.
EBOLD 37 AK 3737 at
AOL.
Okay.
And I give you mine as well.
I was on hold on Facebook. They said thank you for inquiring, but we'll get back to you. So.
All right.
Ryan, may I give you mine as well? My name is Paula Latson-Gillis.
Okay, go ahead.
Thank you, Brian.
Okay, my email is Gillis, Gillis as in Sam, family, 4 as in number 4, M as in Mary, D as in Doug, at gmail.com. And my name is Paula Latson, L-A-D as in Doug, S-O-N, -Nate Gillis, Paula Latson Gillis.
Great. Thank you.
graduate school next fall, and I was planning on using these funds, you know. And
So, I'm sorry to interrupt. I just want to let you know that I'm texting now with one of my delegates, Jen Terrasa, and she's asking if she can join this call. And the host has dropped off. Can she still join it? Okay, I'm going to send the link and join us in a moment.
And Carol, please ask the investigative reporters, anybody has reporters now, while we have over 170 people, invite them in. I think if they're all getting this in one go, I mean, I'm sorry, I was reading the text. There was a woman, I believe was a widow, who has 2 daughters, and I'm sorry for your loss. But let's get this now. Let's get that first area going. I think this might have been a blessing in disguise that they were so disorganized. They now opened a forum. Now we're here. Let's get the reporters.
Yes.
Let's get them here. 2, then we will spread it out. And then Delegate Wilkins, thank you for responding. Brian, I'm sorry, I don't mean to be disrespectful. I don't want to mispronounce your family name. Thank you for inviting them. And Wendy, you're on top of it. Let's get this done now. We have 170 people on the line. This is going to be better than a town hall because reporters can have interaction. They don't get on the wire. Then we could do it. We'll get on that special session because Governor, I'm sorry, I misspoke. Yes, Governor O'Malley. Remember he had the commercial years ago. Took down the diploma from the wall. We will make this affordable. I remember distinctly. Let's use that back. I live out of state. I live in Connecticut.
Yes.
We have a gentleman from Hopkins, knows the governor. Let's use their own words.
Yes.
You know, citizen context.
Because the only reason I did this because they said it was a legislative guarantee, and I'm stuck there. I was like, what the hell happened?
Yes, ma'am. But again, this is for our children. We all metaphorically tightened our financial belts, and now the government is saying, we took your money, we admit that, and we're not going to give you back the money that we took.
Right.
But Carol, thank you for calling. Please have people call in, and when they get here, have them identify themselves, and we'll give them a recap. We've been, one gentleman, as Carol said, the chairman literally told someone to be quiet very illegally, and we're not. And they said there was an agenda. There was no agenda.
And he also asked for the name of the person who said something to him.
Yes.
The man who had spoken back.
Yes.
Again, public
Yeah.
Right, but let's also look. They said there was an agenda, and I said, I'm sorry, I did not see the agenda. Then they said it was on the website. I'm decent on computers. I'll leave it at that. I looked. I found no agenda. The agenda was open session. Agreed.
Right. They didn't send no agenda.
Agreed.
It was too high.
Agreed. My point is, if we get someone on, please call them in the next 5 minutes. I think this will be a great scoop. At a minimum, let's not talk about class actions. Let's talk about fixing the problem. The first is we have to get this in front of people. We're all right now, forgive me, having collective airing of grievances. Let's take this and vector it to a solution. And the first part is get it to the media.
Right. So do we still keep, I have automatic withdrawal or deposits? Are you still contributing, or what are we doing?
Ma'am, with respect, I am not a financial advisor, and I paid mine 20-some years ago for my sons. Long story short, I would be ill at ease to say what I think you should do. But that said, ma'am, again, talk to your financial advisor and make an informed decision. That's all I'm going to say from my end.
Someone earlier had said do not pay any additional. That's just a comment that came across the screen earlier on.
It is.
This is a bank. Can I ask, please, since this is a banking issue, does this have any place with the Banking Commission?
I believe we cast as large of a net as possible and let that go in. And technically, it's in a gray area. It's not a bank. from a financial standpoint. We're not FDIC. The principal and the interest is not guaranteed by the FDIC. However, it is guaranteed by the legislative guarantee. But the legislation has to be approved by the working session. And Delegate Wilkins, if I misspeak, please let me know. Brian, if I misspeak, please let me know. We have questions. We are financially invested, literally, figuratively, and emotionally in this issue. We've got to have the ability to air our grievances to the legislature directly, not going through a filter of the board. And the way this was handled is a blessing in disguise. Again, we've got to get somebody up, because as the Double Dog lawyer said, onesie twosies, you're dismissed, but there is strength in numbers. We've got to get somebody on who can hear this grievance.
Right. Is the lady that gave the Maryland529.2022 Gmail account still on? Because I emailed to that my contact information. It came back as undeliverable.
No, it's completely deliverable. I've received at least 2
Okay, what is it? Is it Maryland529.2022 @Gmail?
Yes.
Mine bounced back and I sent it again and then it went through. So I think
It's very, very busy. You just need to send it.
No. Okay, thank you. And one last comment. Is someone going to post a template letter that we can all use to send to our delegates? Did I hear that was going to happen? If so, where is that going to be posted?
So I'm going to post something to the Facebook group. The reason why I'm using the Facebook group is not just because I created it, but there's a place where you can store files. So there are already files up there that have been in the group since it was formed in August. And so I was going to post it there. For the folks who sent me their email addresses, I'll do that as well. I'll also send it to the Maryland529, the group that Delaney just created as well. So for those of you who don't have Facebook or don't want to use Facebook, we'll handle it that way.
So Brian,
what's the Maryland529 address again for people who aren't on social media?
Maryland529.2022
Lisa, the woman who's working as the investigative reporter for the Washington Post, I believe her name is Lisa. Can you please?
I didn't work at the Post. I worked at other papers, but I'm in contact with the Post.
Okay. Even better if you're with the Times. I would suggest that you list that information, the contact information, in your investigative reporter news blurb, so others can actively be funneled to the same location, so we can have, again, strength in numbers going to the same sources. So besides contacting our delegates on the one prong, we are all hitting the same area, the same pain point. And then, as you, an investigative reporter, can start looking through, seeing the stories, getting that contact information, getting that lead, so we can start looking at the threads before we get to the fiber of the fabric.
Hi, my name is. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. Go ahead and finish.
Please continue, sir.
Yeah, so my name is Mohammed Abdi. I'm also impacted by what's been going on with this 529. One suggestion that I would make with regards to the class action, I think somebody already pointed that out. It would cost, us money. So there is an industry that's called a litigation funding. It's kind of surprising. Actually, it was on 60 Minutes last night. So what this industry does is they will take a look at the case, and if it's viable, they wouldn't charge you anything, but they would sue, in this case, the state of Maryland, and they would get their cut from a settlement outside of the funding. So litigation funding is the term that's used in the market. There are several firms that do this, but you just literally Google litigation funding, 60 Minutes story will pop up. I urge everyone on this call to kind of listen to that, and that be part of our, a three-legged stool, if you will, attacking.
What you just said, they get funded from the back end. So we're suing to get our own access to our money. So to get access to our money, it will cost us money overall.
What I understand is if the state is found negligent, the funds they will get will be a penalty that in addition to what we owe. So I don't think that fund would come from the pool of the trust. It might be something the state fund has to provide, but it needs to be looked at. So that was it. And I do also want to add to the discussion that my son has graduated from college, but I do owe what is called, a refund, if you will. I'm not able to get the refund because of this interest thing. So it's not necessarily students who are currently enrolled. Just want to put that out there. Thank you.
Sure. Yeah, that affects even more people. That's quite interesting. Thanks for sharing.
Right. Sure.
Hi, my name's Steve. I've got a question for others in the group. I've got two sons in college, both out of state. We were told that we had excess benefits back in the spring, and we used those to cover room and board. And then we came back and they said, no, you just spent a half semester's worth of tuition, so we're not going to pay for all of your spring of 2023 tuition. They told us we had extra money last spring that we could use to cover these expenses. Now they've come back and said, nope, you actually just spent tuition money, not excess benefit money. Has anybody else been lied to about how much money they could actually spend?
Yeah,
And they said that to me too, Steve. Yeah.
That's one of the people who's on the Facebook group. She's her my son's a college freshman, and her child is a senior, and that's exactly the issue that she's going through right now. And right now they can't tell her what further excess benefits she should be entitled to, but she knows she is or thinks she is. And I think that's the core of the problem, is that many of us have been told we have certain amounts of money or some amount of money that's, but now we can't find out anything at all other than, here's this principle. So for many of us, and, I think one of the things that we've been told, that this is what Maryland529 has told us, is that there are 400 people who filled out a form on the site saying that they're having this issue, and 100 of them are prioritized. Well, as of this morning, of those 100, and there were about 100 and some odd people in the Facebook group this morning. Of those 100, and, some percentage are in that group, nobody had heard a thing. Even though it was like a week ago, the board came out and said, we've done the calculation, we're going to start contacting people. We've started contacting people. Nothing has happened. Not, okay, and bills are coming now. You all know that. I got the bill from my son's school, and Jan just said it in the chat. They say they're going to do things, and they just don't do it.
Brian, thank you for doing what you're doing and for setting this up. It sounds like we're all in the same, whether you're in state, out of state, kids not in school, all of our money is at risk right now.
So I have a question for clarification, and I'm sorry if I missed this, but so for those people who all they want is to actually use the prepaid money, in other words, to actually use it to pay the tuition, are they being allowed to do that? So forget about the interest, but they're just using it to pay the direct.
Maryland? You mean Maryland?
Yeah, Maryland. So you paid your prepaid tuition. Ours was in 2007. It was $9,000 at the time. Now it's like 11 or 12. If all I wanted to do was to actually have it paid for the years of tuition, would I be able to do that? I think it would be stupid.
Yes, they are paying.
Yeah.
Right. That's why you're pushing more people who are sending their kids out of state.
Yes, but they would allow you to take that, whatever, $11,000 and apply it to an out-of-state school, but you won't get the quote interest that they then promised. So I was told that I don't do that.
They're only giving you half.
Right.
So if you have an out-of-state and you get a max, right? It's up to a maximum that they determine for how much you can pay. So if your kid's going to a school that costs $75,000 a year, you will get something near the equivalent of Maryland, right? So it's something around $10,000.
Right.
Forget the interest. They will only pay you half of that right now. That's what I got, and that's what others have
I
got.
see. I was saying,
5,000 of the 10,000 they owe you for an out-of-state tuition.
So it's not coming close to.
no, it's not even what you put in, but
I got the full amount I put in.
Semester, is it not?
Each semester I've been getting the full amount I put in, but no interest on an out-of-state University of Georgia
But Bill, when was the most recent that you got that?
in August.
Well, I and others have only gotten half, and we were told that they could.
It's
could
That was for the
recalculate it so
prepaid.
they
That was for the prepaid.
That was
It's
prepaid, man.
prepaid. It's odd because in the spring I got way more. I got 11,500 and something, and they said that or 11,100. Before I'd been getting 68.25 a semester, which is what I put in, and then in August I got slightly less of what I put in at 66.44. So there was an extra payment made in the spring, and then a slight deduction in August.
Well, it'll be different for everyone based on how much the tuition is at your child's out-of-state school. But what I'm saying is, regardless of that total amount, what I know others have received is only roughly 50% of what we should have gotten for the entire year, right? You can make a claim at any point in time during the year. The point is there should be a total for that year. In my personal case, it's around 10,000, which is the maximum, right, that they would pay for out of state. It equates to something around what the full year of Maryland tuition would be. If your child goes to a school out of state that doesn't charge as much tuition, you might be getting a little bit less than that. But what I'm saying is I've only received half, and others I've talked to have received that maximum half during this school year. That's so in response to what.
I got a bad echo.
Yeah, you gotta turn off.
Go on mute.
Can you hear me now? It's on the phone and computer.
Right. You gotta turn one of them on, close it.
Mute something.
Brian, and may I have your email address? Somebody sent me an email like I'm the one that's collecting them. I want to send that to you.
Yeah. Barbara, I'll go ahead and put it in the chat, okay. but it's also my last name, SAVOIEB @yahoo.com. Okay.
Can you say that a little slower, please?
Sure. It's SAV as in Victor, OIEB @yahoo.com.
Okay.
Is that B as in boy?
B as in boy.
This is Ramajan again. Can you hear me clearly now?
Yeah, I'm sorry. I'm still trying to get it. It's SAV as in Victor,
OIE.
It's in the chat.
I'm not on the
Yeah, it's a lot of vowels. SAV as in Victor, OIEB as in boy @yahoo.com.
Okay.
At what.com?
Yahoo.
That's an oldie.
Not as old as AOL.
So it's Brian Boy.
Yeah, it's Brian Savoy.
And so, Brian, are you the one that will hook us up with Facebook?
Yeah, that's what I'm going to do. Is I'm going to go in there and I can send out invites via Facebook that'll go directly to your email addresses, so you'll be able to go in that way. There's also the listserv that's been created. And I'm sorry, I forget the name of the woman who created that, but I think that's also a really good option. So if you're not on Facebook, utilizing that. I know it's for a class action lawsuit, and some of you may be against it, but it's also a really good way of organizing people. I just joined that as well.
Brian,
something that's going to really take some time and a tremendous amount of effort to get people to kind of move on this? Or is this, I mean, is this a glitch, or is this really some other issues of corruption? And I mean,
so I think one of the things that I try and assume positive intent in my life. Okay, so let's just take it from that perspective. I think that well-meaning people did wrong things. Okay, and let's look at it from that perspective. I think that the issue and the problem here is that resolving it is going to take a long time, okay? Given my individual circumstances and some of the decisions that I made a few months ago, for me to resolve my individual issue, I think will take at least another 8 months, okay? Do I think that other people it will take that long? No, I don't. I think for some people who haven't made the decisions that I did, they may be able to resolve this faster. But the thing is that, like, I put in a rollover request that was allowed, but I still am owed my interest. Okay, I'm still owed my earnings, which is like 40% of the account. I needed the money now, so I executed the rollover. I've talked to people who've tried to execute a rollover but have not been allowed to because by intuition. And I was in that situation as well. And there are some stories on the Facebook group about that, about, you know, why you weren't allowed to execute a rollover. But, you know, we've been told that this would be resolved at the end of August. It wasn't. We've been told that it would be resolved at the end of November. It wasn't. They are held an emergency meeting today. Is it resolved? Who knows? We'll probably find out after the first of the year when they release the minutes of that session.
So, Brian, can you define for me when you say you tried to do a rollover, what that means? Because I haven't accessed these funds. I haven't accessed the prepaid funds because my daughter wouldn't need it till next fall. So
yeah.
When you say rollover,
I think what he's saying is that he's in the Maryland prepaid college trust, and then he decided to roll it over to the other 529.
Oh, I see.
Whatever was left, and see, I had 2 years of fully funded university, and I'm sitting here thinking whether or not I need to just go ahead and submit some older bills and just cut bait, you know, and fish somewhere else, and at least get my principal. But the other thing about, so I said, and one of the estimates I was given is that, okay, I put $20,000 in this prepaid college trust fund for 2 years of university. I was told 3 years ago that it was worth $33,000. So, because it's that old. But now, the issue would be, okay, fine, I'd have to pay taxes on the 13, right? So let's just say it knocks down to like 29. I don't know. Do I say just give me the 20, or do I still chase after the additional money? And then if someone else who's already kind of midway, they kind of said, well, I'll just take the amount for the tuition. And there are people in all different ends of the spectrum of this. There could be someone who said, I rolled it over. I'm afraid to roll it over now.
Right.
But what I'm saying is there could be someone who rolled it over, and then they gave them just enough to pay for the tuition, or in the case of an out-of-state person, half the tuition. So they want, the out-of-state person wants the other half of the tuition plus their interest. The person who is in-state wants the remaining portion of their interest. And to do anything, it's kind of like, where do you want to fall in this equation? I mean, it's pretty yucky.
And this is Jeff. I have 2 children. One is currently going out of state. I was told that originally that they'd have this cleared up their fiscal end of year. I believe it was the end of July. And I'd submitted a request for funds. I paid the first semesters with the funds. They told me they'd have it resolved by August, and I'd be able to roll over the funds. And I was under the assumption, well, then I'd be able to pay for the following tuitions through the investment fund. But of course, now it's frozen. And then I have another child that's currently in 10th grade that I've been paying the prepaid college fund for both of them since they've been born. But I mean, what now? I'm probably going to have my older child start submitting for college loans because I can't access the money.
Wow.
That's absurd. That's absurd.
That is totally absurd.
Yeah.
Brian, could you tell me if you received an email from the RK5? I got an old email address at Comcast.net.
So I've just received a bunch of emails. I only see names. I don't see the email addresses. Just pulling it up. I do.
Reply, you'll get it.
Somebody else.
I just want to jump in here for just a moment. First of all, thank you all for being here. This is so encouraging. I don't feel like I'm fighting this on my own anymore. So thank you all so much. Thank you, Brian, for starting a Facebook group and for providing so much information. Thanks to everybody here. I do want to let you all know, and somebody else commented in the chat that Jen Terrassa, who is one of my delegates from Howard County, is on the call, and she's texted me that she has reached out to several of her delegate friends. She knows that other delegates are on the call and have been on the call, and they are organizing right now to figure out what's going on. Many of whom had no idea that this was going on, and I think that's been mentioned. But they know now, and they are mobilized now. And inadvertently, we do have to thank the 529 board for sending that email out today.
Yeah.
That we've been able to, get this ahead of steam together, and so there's that. Okay, so and thank you. I think it was you. Was it you, Brian, or was it Daryl? I'm not sure who actually let them know. Somebody, let them know that they were violating the Public Meetings Act or whatever it was called that required that they then send the email out. So somebody here made it possible for us to know, that there was this opportunity for us to get together. And the fact that the 529 people haven't cut off this call is actually shocking to me, and I'm grateful for that. So
I'm really thankful too, because I just knew they were going to cut it off.
I think it was
listening to our
Somebody didn't realize it's on.
that could be. Yeah, you're right.
I think they're just so inept that they didn't even think about it.
Good point.
Well, so here's an interesting thing. So what they sometimes do, and I actually emailed Tony Savia today to ask him specifically about this, is sometimes when they go into closed session, they will come back to the open session and talk about what they did in the closed session, because that's actually required that they were, even though they don't go through in detail, they'll record what happened. That's what was going on in the early part of this meeting. So it's not surprising that they left it open, but it's surprising that nobody has come back to close the room. So.
Well, actually, Brian, with respect, they could still be meeting, and at the end, theoretically, at the end of that time, they'll come back.
I'm gonna be shocked.
They may not be, but Brian, you are correct. They are supposed to come back to the open session and give a recap. So
yeah, maybe we should somehow close this line at some point before everybody gets back and we start hearing a bunch of beeps and reconvene at another time.
No, we can't, because there's no way unless we go through the Maryland prepaid form. But I think it would be good as correct, as Wendy said, or at least I understood Wendy to say, and I'm misremembering, I apologize, that we have all the delegates on. It might be good for the delegates to keep it open just in the background, so when they come back from their session, as they're required to, the delegates can hear what they actually said during the closed door session. So we're a one-pronged working group, and it's like an offense against a defense, and the other side is in their huddle, and we're making our huddle, they're having their huddle, and then we could come out and try to resolve this from what they did. Just a thought, because they could have the solution, and everything's fixed. We got the money. Everything will be pushed away tomorrow. Let's hope that happens. So we got to stay on the line for them to come back.
Well, I'm glad that
delegate for Calvert County, Wendy. This is Brian Zone. I'm in Calvert County. Who's the delegate for?
I'm in Howard.
Oh, okay. Sorry, I thought you said Calvert. Okay.
No, sorry, I probably said.
Sorry, who's in Howard?
This is Delegate Jen Terrassa is on the line now, and she is now, I guess, talking with Delegate Wilkins. So she's, multitasking. and I got her, I just texted her. That's how she knows about this call, which is why she joined it right away. And she knew nothing about this issue. And I have to say, she is a wonderful.
So there's been a Maryland529 shit show
she was that responsible.
that erupted
Well,
today.
that's good.
No, it's
I guess
crazy.
I'm
It's
ashamed
an
of
amazing
myself
story.
that I didn't totally
It is, but
investigate
it's
what
like,
the
there was a call that
legislative
was called for
guarantee
4
and
o'clock,
oversight
it's still going on 2
involved,
hours later.
because
It's like the
that has
it's like the
apparently
inmates took
fallen
over the
short.
asylum kinds of
This
thing.
come to the door?
I
Because I might
I
have
just
to
got a email from
That
Senator
came, I don't know where I
Feldman's
found that. I
office.
think that was downstairs.
They heard from a
There
lot
weren't
of
other
you,
packages
and they
downstairs?
just said
No.
that Senator
There was?
Feldman
Oh,
and
shit.
Delegate
Okay.
Wilkins are drafting a Maryland 529 Accountability and Transparency Act of 2020.
What?
Great news. We'll see how long that takes.
That takes 5 years.
I just talked to someone from Delegate Wilkins' office. Delegate Wilkins was here, but this person couldn't get into the meeting. But she said it will take a long time, legislation, but at least there'll be a hearing and there'll be publicity. It'll be covered by the press, so that's something.
Does that get us our money is the question now. Pay for college by January 1st.
Can I just ask a question? I got on late because I didn't see the email, but are people not able to access for local schools, in-state schools, the tuition now?
You can access, but you don't get, you can access the school, that is to say, the school will get it in some cases, but not all the money that the students should get is being paid to that school, so they can access it, but not as fully as was intended.
So it wouldn't be a whole year, each year would be a year.
Well, each contract, it depends on the contract you have open and the amount you have paid in. There are too many variables to say. It's dealing with lawyers and contracts. You know how that
Well, that's what I was going to ask. Does anyone on the call know the specific provisions in their contract that are violated?
Actually, I read mine, and every year in the statement they make changes and stipulations. And it also depends on when you came in. So grandparents did one thing, and then if you go down, the benefits have eroded.
I think we need to narrow on that. My kids don't go to school for another 5 or 10 years, but I'm looking through my contract, trying to follow what the folks that are getting, screwed right now are dealing with, and trying to understand where this benefit is articulated in the contract that is not being honored.
Have you gone and come back?
I think it's in Article 5 benefits under minimum benefits.
For you?
That's where it talks
You
about
want to
the
like
interest.
candles?
I do want to light candles.
Mine's still 1.2%.
I need to.
Exactly. Return.
Supposed to have a package downstairs, so I'm gonna run downstairs.
Does
anybody know?
Do you want to do
Peter,
this?
I was wondering if there was a chance that I was overpaid last spring, or was that the correct amount and then they reverted back? My daughter is a sophomore out of state, and my understanding when I first started getting benefits was that the average tuition from the Maryland State schools would go towards her out-of-state tuition. Then in the spring of last year, the payment was almost double. It was like $10,000 something versus $5,000, which I'd gotten for the fall semester last year. And I even called them up and said, I just want to make sure this is right.
But like,
Yeah,
for
we
some
recalculated everything.
No, I didn't
Should
bring
have been
them out.
earning interest.
Here,
And so
I'll
they paid
give you
it.
this one.
And so I was then expecting that same amount in the fall, because he said, from now on, every semester you're going to get this. I made my claim, and I got back to the 5,000 level, but it was even less than what I got the first semester.
Peter, there's several of us on this call that have dealt with that. I experienced the same thing as did another gentleman that spoke earlier.
Oh my God!
So,
But wait.
am I
Okay, so
assuming that they're
I
going to
might,
be
but
coming
no,
after me
look.
because I got
See how
overpaid last
pretty that
year,
looks?
or is it just that
Okay.
they owe me more and they're not giving me any of that until this all gets resolved? I mean, they put a freeze on my daughter's account because I was expecting a certain amount
See
of
how
money
crooked
to
that
pay
is?
tuition, and they froze it so she couldn't register for her classes, which is, so then I had to take out a loan to pay it off so she could register. So I mean, they owe me whatever you decide to pay on the loan as far as I'm concerned.
That's right. That's right.
So, I'm sorry. It makes me
our house.
Like, because I got it from
it's just
Canada.
infuriating to me. And like someone else said, it's been
So I tried it. So I went online. I was like, "What's the best
they
one?"
say,
They're like,
we're going to
design it up.
prioritize
So I got them
that
to do
have
it, and
your
they said it was
students
crooked.
in
They wrote them
class
back. I was
right
like,
now.
"It's
You have to
crooked.
use
What the hell, man?"
I've registered for that Google form 4 times and never gotten acknowledgement that it's ever been received. I don't even know if they know about me, and I certainly haven't been called by anyone.
I don't know. If you could give one of those,
No one has. No one has. I'm sorry, I'll stop.
So when I said it was a
Is
system,
there at all?
the board chair,
Professional, no phone number, no email, no way to contact.
Awesome.
Is there an office
As it should be.
I mean, is there actually a
Yes,
physical?
it's on Whitney Street in Baltimore.
I was
It's
supposed to
one
get a
of the
package
office
from Amazon
buildings.
Bills.
I went in to
So I'm
fill
gonna go
out
look for that.
the
I'll be
checks
right back.
20-something years
You
ago.
want me to make you food, or you want to just eat when you're ready?
I'll just eat when I'm ready.
Okay.
Then I was in Baltimore recently, and I was not able to get access to that floor. That was my own experience.
I think now they're out of state. They're like in Florida or something.
Oh, that's where. Well,
It was so much better when they ran it from the Redwood people. You could call. You could call. They wouldn't answer. But you leave a message, and then they would call you back. And they resolved it. And they sent you your stuff.
Yeah, they contracted it out to some
call
people in Florida.
Some company in Florida.
There's
You
two.
used to be able to go straight to
There's one in Baltimore, which is the state government office, but most of them are working remotely. And then there's Intuition, which is, it's like T. Rowe Price. And they're the ones who are actually answering the phone because it's a private company, but you cannot reach anybody in the government.
Right, but I think what they've done is they've contracted it out to
Like my legislators from Baltimore County, I emailed them a couple times, and I just got back the typical, we're on it. I reached out to my contact at 529, and then nothing. So I'm not sure if the Baltimore County delegation is involved as much as some of the others that are on here.
I would just reach out to your delegation. I mean, I think,
I did.
Oh, good. Well,
Any regulatory gurus on here? I know someone had mentioned earlier something about FDIC, but I don't know if CFPB might be an option to lodge a complaint since this is a multi-state issue. Anybody got any knowledge on that?
I don't.
Okay, I'm gonna look into that. I'll reach out to via the chat or the email or the Facebook page if I find anything. But I've used CFPB complaint before with an issue with BB&T, and they were pretty swift. So I'll keep everyone posted.
I'm wondering if those of you who have been really involved and affected by this over the last year, if anybody tried to get Governor Hogan's office involved.
So there are a few people who have reached out to Governor Hogan, and they're also members of the current administration who are on the Maryland529 board. So nothing has been heard directly from Governor Hogan. Early on, this has been one of those things where one of the things that I was hearing in August, this is just a small problem. It only impacts a small number of people. Then we hear that it's hundreds. Okay, but the issue is it's hundreds, but it's our children's education. Okay, so that's the big issue here. So I haven't heard anything directly from the governor. Haven't heard anything directly from the governor-elect. I mean, I'm sure that he has heard our concern. I'm sure that both of them have heard their concerns. But
because am I naive in believing that they need to be involved in this?
they don't necessarily need to be involved directly, but it wouldn't hurt to have them speaking directly to the board publicly, telling the board to resolve the issue. The first communication that I had with a previous executive director for this was that the board was making the decision not to pay out interest. So the board can make the decision to start paying interest and earnings again. They're going through a process, for whatever reason. So, part of this was, I was like...
So would it not help if the media went to the governor-elect and say, what are you doing about this?
I would think it would have to, yes.
Okay, I want to play devil's advocate on 2 points. One, I read a great comment from someone who signed an open letter to the legislature. Because, playing devil's advocate, if we go to the governor, Governor Hogan goes, I'll put out a committee to research the issue. Governor-elect would go, this was a problem that came in before my administration, I'll research it. But how can we get our children's money collectively up before this? For the delegates on the board, if we wrote something for an emergency session, emergency legislation, so it doesn't go to the sausage factory for years to get this out on the other end, we need satisfaction and consideration now. No offense to the people that have money arrears, that's a whole other, it's separate but related. How can we get this fixed going forward? Because that's going to be easier than the back ones. I'm just trying to think, we have the people in the post, we have the people on the forums, we have the people in the sessions, an open letter being talked about, delegates that are on this call. What can we do now to get a legislation pushed up in priority in the session as soon as it opens? That's a question to the delegates. Am I audible?
Yes. This is Delegate Jen Terrassa. I'm just starting to learn a lot more about this, but I know, as somebody said, Janelle Wilkins and Feldman are working on something with this, and so I would defer to them, but I certainly think letting all of your electeds know about it is important. I'm not saying that they don't know, but not everybody does, and I thought maybe, I did hear about this before, but I thought maybe it was happening to 1 or 2 people, and I know there were folks working on walking that through the system, but this is really something. And I'm glad that I'm here, and I appreciate Wendy letting me know about the meeting so I could listen in, but I think letting as many of your electeds know is probably helpful.
What can you do as an early member, as an early part of the session? Because this is impacting, there were literally, correct me if I'm wrong, anyone on the message, I think 365 at the zenith of this call. We were literally chastised by a member of the board. That's one issue. The bigger issue is what can we do to make sure our children are made whole? So we can follow the legislative guarantee that then Mayor O'Malley, Governor Kennedy O'Malley promised us, taking down that diploma from the board and saying education will not be stymied. Education is being stymied. And this is, you can see, not 1 or 2 people. What can you do right now to put something up quickly?
Hi, Mark. I just wanted to chime in and thank you so much, Delegate Terrassa, for joining, and her and I are chatting about this as well, as Wendy mentioned. I think that as has been discussed during this conversation, I've been here pretty much the whole time, mostly listening and taking some notes on some of the various issues that are coming up so that we can apply that as much as possible to the legislation, is that we have to work on multiple tracks. Various strategies are going to take different timelines, and legislation does take time. The legislature will not convene until January 11th. The legislative session is where we do our work, where we introduce and debate bills. So it won't be until, at the very earliest, January 11th, that legislation would be introduced, and of course has to be debated, go through the legislative process, pass through committees, and all those things. We're going to work to fast track it as quickly as possible, such as making it working to ensure that it goes into effect as soon as it is passed. But realistically, it won't be able to pass until about April. So legislation is something that is going to take time. I just want to make sure I'm being as transparent and realistic as possible. But there are other strategies that have been outlined here. The other thing that I've committed to is working to advocate for a public hearing on this so that there can be more discussion. And I think what that helps to do is to help spur some more transparency and a resolution from Maryland529 once this continues to be exposed. And there's you all have been part of the conversation, so I don't need to recap the other strategies that have been discussed. But I do think that realistically, what we're looking at for legislation and actually going into effect is, is April.
Thank you, Delegate. And again, you've been great, and thank Brian for all this. One thing I would ask, if possible, Delegate, so we don't argue from ignorance or to go to transparency, if possible, get the books opened up to the public so we can review it, so we know where the state of the money is, because that is the big elephant in the room. We don't know what the funds are. We don't know what the liabilities and the credits are. How can we know how to distribute money if we don't know what the financial state is? That's just my thought. If you could get that done as early as possible and before the hearings, that way we can go into the hearings armed with information. That would be very helpful. Just a thought and suggestion. Again, thank you, delegates, for all you do. Thank you, Wendy. Thank you, Brian. And this, again, was an unintended blessing from a mistake. Thank you.
There's legislation in place that created it, and doesn't it say who makes the appointment board? Like, there should be something we can do now. Like, that board is incompetent if they think this company is running things right. Like, they need to fire that company and get another one in place. Like, it's just, it's negligent and it's hurting people. And there is legislation that created that damn thing, and it is backed by a legislative guarantee. And there should be something that can be done about it now, based on the legislation that's in place already.
Yes. What does the legislative guarantee mean? Who's enacting that exactly?
I agree with all, but we need to know the finances, because right now we are all emotionally as well as financially invested. We don't know to what extent the finances are.
I agree with that.
It's almost.
But so doesn't the board have oversight of that, and shouldn't they be able to demand that? And who appoints board members?
The governor. I thought it was the governor who.
So
we saw the response from the chairman of the board today. The chairman of the board, I mean, you saw his response today. He's not going to open up the books and show us what's going on. It sounds like he's digging in with both feet and playing defense.
Which is why I believe the governor needs to be
somebody has
involved.
oversight of that board.
The governor.
Remove those board members. And I know Franco's on the board, and I emailed him about this several times with no response. It's just, I'm just so. I'm sorry. I'm going to mute myself before I say something I shouldn't. But I'm just so fed up with this whole process. I'm going to mute.
Well, I think we all are fed up with it. It's not acceptable.
So do we have next steps, or are we just going to, Brian, where are we? Are there next steps we need to address?
So I think that there are a few things that, and I think one of the things you need to keep in mind, while each of us are going through a common situation, our individual circumstances are going to be very different depending on, the age of our child, what's going on, our state with the accounts, those types of things. But the one thing I think that we can do the best is to support one another, is to keep connected, keep talking about what's going on. If you're comfortable with Facebook, the Facebook group, again, it has a lot of resources on there already. I'm going to spend part of tonight reposting some of those just so that they get to the top of the list, so that if you join that, you'll see them. There was another list that's been connected right now. I think one of the things that that Delegate Wilkins said is that reach out to your state senators, your state delegation. Make them aware of your individual story. I'm going to post a letter talking about, just a generic letter that you can build off of. I'll send that out to the email list. I'll also post it on the Facebook group, just to give you a place to start. But what I found in this situation in past, working on organizing community groups, is telling your personal story is the thing that is going to actually help the most in this. So, take that generic letter and please personalize it. I think one of the things is that, we are going into a holiday period. When I get off the call here, I'm going to go and light candles with my family. And I think it's going to be hard during the holiday period to get people together. I was really happily surprised to see 375 people show up. But I do think that we are going to need to get together and talk through pieces as we go into the legislative session and talking and organizing before then. I think that press outreach is going to continue to be an issue. I think that members of the press are going to hear about this meeting and are going to have questions for you about it, what your reactions were. So if you're willing to speak, you should do so. One of the things that we've done a couple of times with the Facebook group is have an open session, which feels pretty much like this. And I'd say we can do that again. We can do it on Zoom. We don't need to use Maryland529's resources in order to connect again and have ongoing conversations. So, I'm not going to say when that's going to be. I'm getting on a train to Florida on Thursday. My son gets back from school tomorrow, so I'd like to spend a little time with family. But I'd say, before the new year comes, I think that we can get together again and talk about strategy and how we move forward.
Thank you.
Thank you, Brian.
Thank you, Brian. Thank you, Wendy. Thank you, delegates.
I think based on that, are we done today? And then we'll just look to get back. So we can bring it to a close today, or?
I think that's fine. I think the fact that there are state delegates, several state delegates are already on this is really wonderful, and they can take steps that we can't. And in the meantime, those of us, who can reach out to your own delegates, and I think Brian, you're right. Tell our own personal stories, and that I think that's what we can do right now and enjoy the holidays.
Exactly.
Our family.
Be well.
Why we're doing all this, because we love our families. So, yeah. Thank you, everyone here. This has been amazing, and not at all what I thought was going to happen this afternoon. So,
Sure is not. But this was a gift in itself.
yeah.
Absolutely. Together.
It's nice to know that you're not alone.
Wendy, is your contact information in the chat?
I think I put it there, but I can add it again.
Would you?
Yeah, I'd be happy to.
Thank you much.
Thanks, everybody. Got a drop.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Before everybody drops, has anyone rolled a balance into a 529 plan outside the state? They told me at Intuition you can do that.
So you can do it. I chose not to. I chose to use the T. Rowe Price plan, but they would have followed the same issue. So somebody had mentioned the fees. I chose to go what I considered to be the easiest path. But yeah, I think that if you had rolled it over to another state, the only thing that it might do is add to your timeline. There is a link on the Facebook group, because I was actually talking with another member of the Facebook group about this exact issue a couple of days ago. So you can find that thread where I talk about it. when I was doing a rollover, it just had to be very structured because they want extra information before you do the rollover, and that can actually cause your rollover to stop. So that's what happened to me. My rollover stopped for a period of time. I say it like in Animal House, my rollover was on double secret probation for a couple of weeks.
I see that form, and they told me that just use an amount that's safe and don't try to roll it all over, and look at your FAFSA amount, and then you can roll over an amount that's kind of like 70% of that or something. You should be able to get the money into like a Fidelity 529 outside the state.
Yeah.
This is Jeff. I'd submitted the rollover form, I believe, last April, and it had been approved to roll it over to the investment fund, but because the funds are now frozen, they haven't rolled it over. And then I did submit something to waive the fee.
Alexa, turn on dining room.
Yeah, I personally wouldn't roll it over into anything but something outside the whole system. You know,